Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. My name is Jenna Labor, and I will be your host as we explore the dynamic world of Don Keenan's trial philosophy, The Cutting Edge. Those of you joining us live this afternoon have the opportunity to ask questions and interact with our speaker. If you have a question, please type it into the comments section below, and we will be sure to address it. Episodes are released each week following the live broadcast, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and click the alerts icon so you don't miss an episode. Today, we have Gus Brown with us out of Maryland to talk about the undergraduate focus groups college. Focus groups are an integral part of trial prep if you do it the right way. And if you listened to my case autopsy last week, you know it is equally important to know how to interpret a focus group's feedback and translate that to your jury. You'll learn all about that and more at the KTI Undergraduate Focus Groups College with Gus and many other fabulous faculty. Gus practices personal injury law in Maryland in addition to being KTI faculty, and he also teaches witness prep. As always, we will put his contact information in the description below so you can contact him directly with any questions you have about this college or anything Edge. Gus, share with us what we can expect, what we can get out of the KTI Undergraduate Focus Groups College.
Well, thank you, Jenna. I am also the co-dean of the undergraduate focus group course and was instrumental in developing the original curriculum, which has been modified probably 4 times over the course of the last 7 or 8 years. Focus group undergrad is the 3rd in the series of courses of the Edge, and there is a good reason for that. The first course, of course, is the course of rules and case selection, the number 1 and most important course that you need to take in order to be able to attend all the others. The second course that you take is number 2, openings, which is hand in glove with what you've learned during the rules course. If you remember, and at least the old traditional way of doing it, the rules course was the development of the first 2 paragraphs of your opening statement, statistics, the safety rule, and then what you want them to do. Focus groups, excuse me. I have my first head cold that I've had in 3 years, and it's about a week and a half old. And when I speak a lot, I get a little bit hoarse.
That's all right.
So the third course that's being taken is focus groups. And then if you look on the series, guess what the 4th course is? Voir dire. And if you don't learn focus groups, you can't learn voir dire. And if you learn focus groups, it will immensely help you in conducting the jury selection process. Then you go to depositions and witness prep and the other undergrad courses after that. I think that the most important tool that a trial attorney has in his or her trial toolbox is focus groups. And it's because you learn from them what's important. You don't tell them what you think is important. As a matter of fact, you are not an advocate at all when you are facilitating a focus group. You are not a teacher at all when you are facilitating a focus group. You are a therapist. And what you do is that you take your focus group and you lay them down on your therapy couch and you ask them, how do you feel about thus and so? And why? Tell us more about that. What are you thinking when you say that? And it is really an important way of getting at the blackboard of what your focus group is. A focus group is not going to be predictive of the outcome of your case, but it does one hell of a good job at helping you understand what they think is important and the way that they are looking at things. They are looking at facts, they are looking at arguments, they are looking at the law as will be instructed. And they don't think of those things the same way you and I do. You and I are among the 1% of the best educated people in the country, the ones who are most interested in politics and social affairs. We are the ones who are the best read, along with other professionals. But 99% of our jury consists of others who are not like-minded as we are. They are not looking at things with the same life experiences as we. We have been very blessed with our lives, and I know some lives are tougher than others, however blessed you may be, but I can tell you that we are very blessed in having been introduced to the world under the circumstances that we have. And the thing that we have to take care of is that we have to make sure that we understand what they are communicating to us about our case. What we are testing is going to be the reflection they have about these issues. And we have to do it in their language, not in ours, certainly not in the stilted language of one of them lawyers. So there is a father of hypnosis and psychotherapy who was very popular in the 1950s, and his name was Dr. Milton Erickson. And there was a story that he used to tell in explaining what you're trying to do. And the story goes something like this. There was a farmer who saw out into an open field a horse without a saddle, but he had his reins and bridle on. And the farmer had never seen him before, didn't know who he belonged to, didn't know where he should go. And so the farmer hopped up on his back, gave him a little nudge, without pulling the reins one way or the other, let the horse take him where the horse was going to go. They got to an intersection of two dirt roads, and the farmer had no idea which way, which was home way for the horse. And so he gave him another little nudge, not pulling on the reins, not saying anything to him, and the horse took a right. And he walked down that dirt road for about 2 miles, came to another intersection of a dirt road. The farmer didn't know which way the horse should go, gave him a little nudge again, without pulling on the reins, without directing him or saying anything, and the horse turned left. And after about 3 miles going down that dirt road, the horse came to a farm, looked up at the barn, walked over to the barn, and the farmer, whose horse had walked away, came running out and said, "Where have you been?" Of course, I only know of one horse that could talk, and this wasn't the one. And the farmer who had nudged him there said to the farmer who owned the horse, "This must be your horse. Are we home?" And the farmer who owned the horse said, "Yes." Now, what's the point of that long, somewhat silly story? It's the story of a therapist. It's the story of the facilitator of a focus group. You introduce a little bit of information, you ask a question, which is the nudge, and then you sit back and let them explain to you what it is that's going on. Let me see if I can share this with you. There are 4 questions that you want answered in every focus group, no matter what type of focus group it is or how you are conducting it. Oh, I had it before. Let me try it again.
I always say it's not Zoom unless there's an issue.
That's correct.
We are seeing it, Gus, if that's.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I didn't know if that was what you were having trouble with.
It's not on my screen. That's the reason I can't tell. I guess everybody else is not on Zoom. They're on the podcast.
Exactly. Just go ahead and maximize your PowerPoint there on the top right so that we're not seeing your desktop. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought you were looking at the wrong PowerPoint, but you've got it. It's up.
I got it. So the 4 questions that you want to be asking every focus group that you're dealing with was, number 1, was this preventable? Number 2, who could have prevented it and when? That will give you the root cause of what was preventable and what it was that was the violation of the safety rule. Number 3, even though you find out that it could have been prevented and who could have prevented it, does that make them responsible for not preventing it or for causing it? So it's the issue of duty and breach. And the 4th thing, and this is the ever-loving driving factor in every jury verdict, and that is, will it happen again? Why should Bubba care? What is the system failure here? Is it going to happen to somebody else in the future? Will it be worse? God forbid, if it should be Bubba. So, what are the things that are most beneficial from the undergraduate focus group course that you will get out of it? Number 1, it's a short course. It's only 2 days. The graduate course is 3. It's a little more comprehensive, and the graduate course goes into how to interpret what what your focus group is saying. The undergraduate course does not. We give a little bit of hint about how to learn to interpret, and that is you have to do multiple focus groups of the same case, and you can do them in various and sundry ways. What you get out of the focus group is that you learn to be a better trial lawyer, because you're thinking on your feet. You are extemporaneous sometimes, and let me underscore sometimes, because one of the biggest mistakes that I see trial attorneys make is that they are not well prepared to identify what topics they want the focus group to review and how they want them to review them. It also is a wonderful practice to help you learn to conduct voir dire. In Maryland, we do not have lawyer-conducted voir dire, which is why focus groups really get me up in the morning. And I've also taken the voir dire course and the advanced voir dire, the graduate voir dire course, and it's helped me be a better facilitator of focus groups. You learn to drill down in asking questions. You learn to squeeze the orange in discussing issues. You learn to get feedback on personal insights of various people and what makes them tick and what it is about their life experiences and what it is about their demographics that make them come to this position. And you really must do a deep dive on each of the topics that you discuss with the focus group. For example, some of you may have heard me give this example before, and that is that we had a fellow who we got into a discussion about COVID. Then we got into a discussion about what the government's response was to it. And then we got into a discussion during the time that Trump was president. And he burst out with, Trump, I cannot stand that son of a bitch. He's a liar. He's a cheat. And I thought to myself, what kind of a Democrat is this? And we drilled down to find out what it was that made him feel that way. And when he was asked to tell us more about why he feels that way about Trump, he said, because the lying son of a bitch didn't build the wall. So at first blush, you may think that he's an anti-Trumper for different reasons. But when you drill down and you find out what the real reason is that he felt this way on the surface, you learn what the real backstory is and what his real feelings are and how important it is that you get there by making sure that you ask all of the questions that you need to. Focus groups also help you determine the strength of your evidence. What you think may be important may not be important to them. I had a personal experience about 10 years ago where I was showing a focus group photographs of what I thought was this horrible car crash. The interior of the vehicle was completely mangled. It was unbelievable to me that my client only had 2 broken arms and 2 broken legs and wasn't killed. But the roof of the car was almost down into the driver's seat. And when I was showing this focus group these photographs of the interior, thinking that they were going to focus on how badly things were mangled and mashed, one of them turned to me and said, Gus, what's that in the ashtray? I said, what ashtray? He got up and he pointed to the ashtray and he said, there's a joint in that ashtray. And so that was the reason that the driver crashed the car. It wasn't because of a defect in the car, or it wasn't because somebody ran him off the road as a phantom driver. But he found in the ashtray a roach, a marijuana joint. And had I not shown that photograph to a focus group, I would never in a million years have realized that was there. It took a pair of 30-year-old eyes to see it. It also it will also help you determine the strength, a focus group will, of your demonstrative evidence. As a matter of fact, one of the types of focus groups that you may learn to do after you have done the undergraduate course is to do a focus group where you say absolutely nothing. And you show them in the sequence that you want to show them the story based on the demonstrative evidence that you are creating, and see how strong those pieces of evidence are, and to see whether they really tell the story and advance your position. A focus group is helpful, I say, in helping you learn voir dire. Well, one of the things that you're trying to do in voir dire is to identify who the rats are, and to feel out who it is that is a non-feeling, insensitive person who knows everything, or who can't be told enough information to come to a conclusion on any issue. It also helps you understand and assist with the explanation of the mechanism of injury, the MOI, which is so important in presenting to a jury. Is this mechanism of injury, does this make sense? And based on the mechanism of injury, was the unsafe conduct the cause of that injury? And last but not least, focus group members give you great insight into jury charges, into jury instructions that will be given at the end of the case. One of the blogs that is a required reading of the course is a blog that was authored by Don Keenan, and it's entitled Bubba Law. And Bubba Law ain't always the same as Maryland law or Washington state law or whatever the law may be that's applicable to your situation. You can use all the words and explanation that you want to, but if you find from your focus group that you're testing the charge that's going to be given by the judge, and you get a negative reaction to it or a completely different interpretation to it, then you've got some work to do. I'll never forget the first time I became aware of Bubba Law. I used to do demonstrations for the Maryland Trial Lawyers Association, and there would be a full day mock trial of a case, and different people would take different positions in the case. There would be opening statements, there would be presentation of evidence, there would be expert witness, and the defense would do the same, and then closing arguments. The judge would then charge the jury, and they would go out into another room, another smaller conference room of a hotel, and their closed circuit TV would watch and record the way they were deliberating about the case. And is true with every focus group I have ever been involved with. When you have a camera on them, if you have a camera right in the very middle of the room directed to everybody sitting there, they forget the camera's there after about a minute and a half. They ignore the camera completely, and they become pretty honest with each other about the way they're feeling. And during the course of the deliberations in this particular example, there was a statement made by one of the jurors, which was antithetical to the jury instruction that the judge had given. And the judge in this case was a real judge, a circuit court judge, and he was very rotund and was a very nice guy, but was a little bit in your face. And the juror, another juror said to him, "But Mr. So-and-so, that's not what our jury instruction said. The judge said that we were not to consider that." And he turned to this juror and said, "I don't give a shit what that big fat son of a bitch said. I'm considering it." So that's Bubba Law. Yep. And it's very helpful to find out where it is in your case.
That's the worst part of watching those deliberations is, and you know that is what they're doing in the real jury room. They don't care what the judge said. They don't care what the rules said. They never look at the jury instructions ever again after the judge reads them. They just make it up.
So how do you find out who's likely to be a rat? How do you find out who's likely to reject your position in the case or a position in the case? How do you find out what they're telling you and what you're testing is true? Papa Don says that 80% of what they tell you is true, but 20% of what they tell you they're thinking is exactly the opposite of what they're really thinking or how they will decide. And it's like a cooler. It keeps hot things hot and cold things cold. The question is, how do you know the difference, or how does it know the difference? And the answer to that question is you've got to do multiple focus groups. You don't have to do all-day focus groups on a case. You can do a focus group for 45 minutes You can take 4 or 5 cases to the same focus group and do 45 minutes on each case, choosing the topic that you want, or choosing the position that you're looking for, and test them all out. There will be similarities among many of your cases, and when you compare what people are saying with the demographic information that you have, and you've done it on multiple occasions, you're going to find out a thread that goes through all of this that will help you interpret. The other thing about interpreting is there are some people who are just really skilled at it. And there are just some people who are just awful in identifying what the interpretation of a focus group is. And so it takes practice, it takes skill, but most of all, it takes a comparison of what one focus group is telling you about an issue from what another focus group is telling you about an issue, and whether someone of like demographic in one focus group reacts the same way as another focus group member of a similar demographic. So, what is the template in the EDGE for doing focus groups? Well, if you get the manual, the focus group manual and the new supplement to it, you will find that there are about 23 different ways of conducting a focus group. But the basic template of conducting a focus group is what Don Keenan says in the introduction to his video series, which I strongly recommend that you all get. But don't rely on it in learning how to facilitate a focus group and present information to a focus group without having taken this course. The undergraduate course gives you a completely different insight into what the videos are showing, although the videos are very helpful and supplement what you're going to be learning in the undergraduate course. But the first the first thing that that Mr. Keenan does in the order of doing focus groups in each case, and these are minimum in each case. He does first thing he does is a narrative focus group, and a narrative focus group is a neutral presentation of information to see what their reactions are, to find out what the negative attributions are in your case, where they naturally lead, where Dr. Milton Erickson took the horse, and they also help identify the reptile buttons, the important reptile buttons in your case. The idea, though, is for you to lose the narrative focus group. You hope that the other side will win, but the narrative that you're presenting is being presented in a neutral fashion so that the focus group ought not know what side of the case you're on or what side of the issue you're on. You can do devil's advocate questions to try to identify other sides, but the narrative focus group is what you concentrate on in the very first focus group of your case. That's all we do in the undergraduate focus group course, is to learn how to conduct a narrative focus group. The reason is because if you learn the skills to conduct a narrative focus group effectively, you will learn the skills to conduct any other focus group correctly. If you don't learn the fundamentals of conducting a narrative focus group, you will screw up every other kind of focus group that you do, and you will not get a successful identification of the research that you're doing and the testing that you're doing. By the way, the American Society of Trial Consultants, of which I am one, has a lengthy manual on on how to be a trial consultant. And one of the sections of it has to do with what we call focus groups. And the word focus group or jury focus group is not a word in that manual. They call it small group research. And that's exact. I think that's more accurate in describing what it is. I call focus groups not jury focus groups, but lawyer focus groups, because they make you focus on what's going on and understand and listen to what people are saying. After you lose it, then repackage it, change the sequence of evidence, see if that is something that's effective, and redo it. Do another narrative focus group. And as I say, you can do a narrative focus group in your case in 45 to 60 minutes to get the important information that you're looking for. The next focus group that he'll do is a safety focus group. It's not case specific, but it's intended to see what it is that's on Bubba's blackboard that shows what the standard of care is, that shows what the duty is that may be owed, that shows what the safe conduct is and what unsafe conduct is. Sometimes in a safety group, I tell the group, I say that we are a new safety organization and we are being asked to give safety standards to an industry that needs to apply them. I want you to help me understand, and notice I didn't say, I want to create these things. I want you to help me understand what should be considered in this safety group in order to be able to give a valid document to an industry or a corporation. The next type of focus groups is that we do an opening, not giving information on the other side, just the plaintiff's opening. It can be well under the new way of doing an opening, and I hope you all have had an opportunity or will take the opportunity to see how the openings have been completely restructured by the Edge. We are no longer reading them. We are still using the statistic, but we are changing safety rules to checklists, safety checklists. And we're using either a PowerPoint or a Velcro board in identifying them. So you generally don't even need notes to do it. But it's only 20 to 25 minutes long. Practice it in front of a focus group. See how you do. It may take 3 or 4 focus groups for you to win the case. And if you lose the case, then you've got to redo it. You've got to do it until you finally get a unanimous decision in your favor. If you can't give your side of the story and win it unanimously without the other side even mentioning anything to criticize you, you're in deep trouble, my friend. So the next group of focus groups is that we do an opening and a defendant does an opening. And then you really get the clash of the titans. And then you see really whether or not you have been able to weather the storm and to create a winning side. Then there are some other focus groups that you can do, and they are specialized focus groups. You can play a video, you can show photographs, you can show your demonstrative evidence. It only takes 10 or 15 minutes, and you can really mix and match cases and take advantage of a 3-hour session with a focus group and not have to pay very much for them because it's a short time, and you get an incredible amount of information and feedback from them. And then the last focus group that's done is an adversarial focus group, or what we used to call a mock trial. And they are an abbreviated trial with voir dire and instructions. You can take a paper vote of the way that they're leaning and how they feel about an issue at each place along the way. And then you get a verdict from them to find out why they have felt the way that they do. Okay. How are we on time, Jenna?
We are at 12:37, so you've got 23
Okay.
more minutes.
All right. Let me go into a little more detail about narrative focus groups and why it's so important that you learn the fundamentals in the undergraduate course. And they are, the narrative focus group is designed to find out the preconceived knowledge that jurors already have before deciding a case, their misconceptions, their prejudices, their biases, and just as importantly, their pre-knowledge about certain topics. It can be done in less than an hour. It identifies negative attribution. If you want to know what they know about a particular subject matter, you just ask. Tell me about what you know concerning meningitis. Tell me about what you know concerning train safety features. What you are trying to do is to find out what's on their blackboard so that you can go off code, both in front of a focus group, but more importantly, in front of a jury. The reason that you want to go off code is that you don't want to insult people who already know a boatload of information about a particular subject. And you want to be sure that you explain clearly in Bubba's language information concerning a topic that they don't know anything about. But you don't want to be talking down to them. You want to be having a conversation with them. So, one of the things that you want to be sure that you talk about when you ask them about their feelings, and let me go back to the share screen again, see if I can prevent this from happening. Can you see that?
I'm not seeing it now.
Okay. How about that?
Got it. Yep.
Okay. In addition to asking the qualitative questions about what is on their blackboard, you also want to ask the quantitative questions about what's on their blackboard. For example, with every major issue, you want to ask them how strongly they feel about a particular situation. And you ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being not so important and 10 being that I can't live in a world where this occurs. Tell me where you are on the continuum. How strongly do you feel, how do you feel about either the flagrancy of the defendant's conduct? Is this something that should be tolerated, or is this something that we can't live in a world where this happens? How upset are you about what happened? 1 being not upset at all, 10 being very angry and totally upset. How much do you care about what happened? With 1 being, I don't give a damn, and 10 being, my hair is on fire. So you always want to ask a quantitative question to all of your major issues. But again, let me emphasize how important it is that you be prepared to go forward with what quantitative questions that you want, because you want to write out all of the qualitative questions, that is, introducing the topic and what you want to ask them about, by writing it out ahead of time and making it short, direct, concise, clear, with only one topic in that question. And you'll have 4 or 5 of these questions. And somebody asked me to give a talk about something, and I said, I don't have time to do it. They said, well, it should only take about 15 minutes. I said, have you ever known me to take 15 minutes to say anything? And so what happens is that I get 5 or 6 of the major topics that I want to discuss with the focus group. And after about an hour and 10 minutes, I've covered 3 of them. Well, that's okay. I'll have another focus group later on where I'll cover the other ones, and I'll see if I can learn to truncate it a little bit. My point being that it's better to drill down to get to the bottom of everything. It's better to squeeze the orange fully than to only limit your squeezing a little bit to cover all of your topics, but you're only squeezing a little bit out of each topic. The other thing that's so important about focus groups, can you see that? Can't hear you, Jenna.
Go ahead and click on it because I think you're just hovering over it right now.
Oh.
Yep, there you go. Got it.
Okay. The other thing that's so important about talking to or having focus groups talk to you is that the words that you use matter. It is so important that you choose carefully how you ask a question. For example, this is a funny cartoon that's been around for a while, and it says, "Where's Waldo?" Well, what does the question assume?
That Waldo's there somewhere.
It assumes Waldo is there somewhere. The question is, where do you find him? Well, when people come in, their natural impulse is to ask a juror when they say that they feel this way about that, about a particular topic. The question is, well, why is that important to you? What's wrong with that question? The words haven't been chosen correctly. You have told that person that that information is of some importance to them. And they say, well, I guess now I better think it's important. I didn't think it was important at all. I was just curious and asking the question. And so I call those my Waldo questions. And like Sister Mary Agnes, I will slap you on the wrist with a ruler if you're in class with me. If you ask a focus group member that, I won't do it in front of the focus group, but I will afterward. It's so important that the words that you choose are chosen very carefully, and you've written out the important ones ahead of time. Okay. Back to my mug. What are the 2 biggest mistakes that people make in presenting and facilitating to a focus group? There are 10 that are listed in the manual, but what are the most important 2 that people violate all the time? And Sister Mary Agnes should be around when you do. They are, you don't listen. You're not listening to what the focus group member is saying. You're not trying to figure out what it is, whether it's 80% or the 20%. That's not really what they're thinking. And so you should be immersed in what they're doing. And I find it impossible to take notes during a focus group. I may make a note of a word to remind me to ask about something, about another topic, but it's impossible for me to take notes during a focus group. And so I always have a scribe, someone else who's there. And it doesn't have to be an attorney. It can be it can be your sister if they take good notes. You just want it to be comprehensive and complete about what's being said. Your job, though, is to listen so that you can ask the next question. What do we learn on cross-examination that many trial lawyers don't know about or haven't figured out or don't know how to do it? They're so committed to the questions that they're asking and the list that they've written down that they're not listening to the answer that the witness is giving to pick up on to talk about something that's helpful. The other second big mistake that people make is that they insert their own opinion into the case, either by answering a question. And by the way, do you know how you should answer a question that a focus group member has? You answer their question with another question, never the information. If it's something that you've already given to them through the presentation, then you turn to the rest of the focus group and say, does anyone recall if I gave this information during the original narrative presentation? And by the way, the narrative presentation is only between 100 and 700 words. You've got it written out ahead of time, and it's not something that is extemporaneous. You've got it written out ahead of time because all of the information is really important, and it forces you to reduce your case to those particular facts. There is a saying that a teacher, one of the faculty members, told me years ago. And she said, look, you need to reduce the facts to the least amount that's necessary to decide the issue. Don't fact up the case. So it's all very true. So never insert your opinion either in answering a question, and if you haven't given information in a presentation and they ask a question, then the question back to them is, why do you ask? Help me understand. Is this, how are you considering it? What's the, in what realm do you think that this plays? Tell us more. How so? All open-ended questions. The who, what, why, how, where, when, and but most importantly, why. Okay. I have a recommendation for you all, and this will help everyone on a listserv, on one of the state or area listservs, edge listservs, and that's this. Encourage your webmaster or whoever it is that conducts or leads your discussions to get together and have a focus group. And each lawyer chip in $200 or $250 for an hour focus group on their case. Have the focus group recorded, have the discussions recorded, and have 4 or 5 lawyers do this over the course of a morning or an afternoon or an evening or whenever you want to do it. And when you have finished with it, make it available to everybody else on your listserv as a podcast or on YouTube. You can, what it does is it demonstrates how to conduct the presentation and facilitation of a focus group. It shares with the rest of the body the information that's learned from them, It's a real case that's being presented. And as President Biden says, guess what? There's always going to be somebody in the group that will have some similarity of a case or some issue in a case that that information resonates with, and the money is being used to pay the focus group members to help review all of that. And it may be less than $200, depending on how many focus group members you want to get. And the number of focus group members is not a magic number. It's the quality of the group that's the magic. You can get 6, you can get 10, you can get 12, but however many that you have, it's the quality of the discussion and of the insight that really is going to drive your boat downstream. If you can even, I have been doing focus groups only virtually for 2.5 years, and the virtual use of the focus group I have found to be very interesting. The pros are obvious. It's concise. People are online. They are used to now using Zoom as a platform, and except for me for stumbling occasionally in the share screen, even I can use it pretty nimbly. It also has surprised me, really, that the virtual focus groups can identify body language. Now, the body language is only from here up, but it's surprising to me how much people are unconsciously communicating information about their eyebrows, about their mouths, about a smile, about a scowl, about, buddy, you ain't convincing me of that kind of an attitude. And it's been really remarkable about how much you can acquire. You also have to be very careful, though, that you're not staring at the one screen where the speaker is talking. You have to be able to use your peripheral vision and watch others and watch what their reactions to it are, because you want to get the composite reaction of what's going on. You'll also see some funny things. I had a woman about a year ago who was a focus group member, and she kept going on and off screen. She was in her late 20s, and I couldn't figure. She was on her iPad sitting on a sofa, and I couldn't figure out where she was going until finally about lunchtime, she came back in. She wasn't asking any more questions. She wasn't being involved in the discussion anymore. She laid back in her sofa and her eyes went dead. She had been out smoking dope.
Geez, I didn't know Maryland had such the cannabis connoisseurs over there, driving, smoking, focus grouping, and smoking. I thought we were the green state.
This was a virtual one, and she was not from Maryland.
Oh, okay.
Which also brings me to the point that the other pro about doing it online virtually is that you can recruit the most amazing group of people from all over the country. And before the pandemic, I would say that about 85% of the information that you can get in a pretty general sense from any member of the population in the United States because of our culture. But 15% of it is very specific to either a locale or a case or something like that. Guess what? It ain't so. I've learned that with virtual focus groups that people are doing, that you can get pretty much 95% of the information that will be responded to in a clear and accurate way back to you than if you were doing them only in one jurisdiction. So when I have a focus group in Maryland, I rely on Maryland, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Virginia, West Virginia, and the whole coordination of states. And when I send out an invitation to join the focus group, it increases tremendously the number of people who apply and the ability for me to choose the demographics that I'm looking for: education, age, sex, employment background, marital status, children, divorced, whether they suffer from a similar condition or problem. And it's been really helpful. Now, the cons by doing it virtually are that it takes longer to do it. Only one person can speak at a time, and you have to wait until your question is fully out before you allow someone to answer, and you have to allow someone to fully answer before you ask the next question or go to someone else to have them share their thoughts on the issue. The last thing that I wanted to say is that we have 4 more classes scheduled for undergrad focus groups. The next one is going to be June 6 and 7, and that's going to be done live in Atlanta, unless the turnout is so poor that everybody only wants to do it virtually. We have not had any live sessions yet. One was scheduled, but folks didn't want to come to Atlanta. They'd just as soon do it virtually, and that's fine. It was well attended, and it went super. The next one after that is July the 18th and 19th. That is a virtual focus group. The one after that is September 19 and 20. That too is a virtual focus group. And then the last one of the year is October 10 and 11. And that is planned to be back in Atlanta. And again, we'll see how that pans out and what has happened with everybody being boosted, and what has happened with everybody around. Our local hospital, which is a 200-bed hospital, has 7 very ill COVID patients in the ICC. It is the lowest inventory of COVID patients that we have had in over 2 years. So it's looking to go in the right direction, but the variants are still morphing, and they're still they're getting better at avoiding the vaccine, although the vaccine seems to be able to prevent the real serious cases from developing. And I'm on my soapbox. I should be.
That's okay. I mean, it's similar to other viruses, right? Where you develop a vaccine for it and it does pretty well, and then the virus mutates and does its thing, and then you got to get something else going. So it's always an evolution. So.
Yep.
All right.
It's an evolution, and we're a revolution.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Oh, thank you so much, Gus. And thank you to all of you who joined us live for this week's episode of Fridays with Keenan's Cutting Edge. I just wanted to mention we did have one question from Michael Clayton, but I want you to, Clayton Robertson. I'm so sorry. Save your question for 2 weeks from now when we have Toby Cole talking to us about openings. Gus, he had a question about why safety rules, checklists, and I kind of want to reserve that so we didn't go too much into the weeds. So Clayton, please save that question for Toby when he joins us in a couple of weeks. If you like today's episode, everyone, please click that thumbs up and subscribe. And next week, we're going to continue our KTI Faculty Speaker series with Carrie Jones. She is going to talk to us about damages college. Dawn has developed the liability portion of damages, and so it'll be exciting to hear from her about that. She is also faculty with me on direct exam, in addition to being faculty for damages. And I look forward to hearing more from Carrie about damages next week with all of you. So have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time.
Thank you.